Pastor Rich here. So excited for, I told you we had something good coming up, and we're going to do something that's at least near and dear to me. It's going to give you a chance to get kind of inside my head a little bit. Might be a scary place, but it might be a fun place. You know, the Lord loves us so much that He created us each so individually with such unique talents and with such purpose that I think we can go through life and use our purpose just to accomplish our jobs, live our lives, make enough money to survive, and save enough money to survive after we retire, and do all these things, and we can miss out on the joy of life. You know, Jesus loved little kids. In fact, He got on the disciples when they tried to keep the kids away from Him so they wouldn't bother Him. Now, don't judge Him, because how many times does that happen to us? We think we don't want those kids to bother what's really going on, what's important. And Jesus was like, hey, unless you're like these little kids and you come to me like they do, you might miss the kingdom of heaven. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about my experience, or experience I had in summer Bible school. Many of you may not even know what that is, but please take time, hit the subscribe button, hit a thumbs up if you like it, post a comment. I'd love to hear from you. But there'll be videos coming out weekly talking about this, and I hope you enjoy this as much as I am having fun with it. So let me set the scene. I grew up at a country church. My dad was a pastor of this country church, so we lived outside of town. All right, it's outside a small town. So every year we had summer Bible school. And I looked forward to it every year because you just got out of school and you'd think, oh no, I got to go back to school. But there was something about Bible school that was just fun. Something about learning about Jesus. It was a blast, and being around the teachers who were the people that go to your church, investing in you as little kids. And you all get together. But one thing about it was, you already knew who was going to be there because you went to church with these same kids all the time. It wasn't like you were around a huge group by any means. I enjoyed it so much. It seemed so big. Now that I look back, it was a small world, but it was a good world. It was a world that Jesus knew I would be in. It was a world that Jesus knew that I would learn about Him in. So I'm setting the scene here. Okay, country church, big white church, steeple, wonderful place, stained glass windows, no air conditioning. And we had this little schoolhouse in the back, just a one-room schoolhouse, if you can picture that. Like Little House on the Prairie, if you've seen that, Google it. You'll find it on YouTube. But what was super cool about it was the oldest class got to be in the little schoolhouse, which didn't have air conditioning either. But there was something about that place that you felt near to God. I don't know if it was the big blue skies and with the puffy, soft clouds flowing by. You know, the church was surrounded by cornfields and bean fields and pasture. And, you know, even the cars, when they go flying down the gravel road, the dust would just kind of dissipate and would hit the church and land on everything, especially in that really drafty one-room schoolhouse. But there was something comfortable about that. It kind of felt like you were part of God's creation and you're learning about God. Now, all this is great, and the teaching was wonderful. Those people did such a great job of explaining the love and the hope and the joy of living a life after Christ, of living a life that you were called to live because God put it on your heart. But they were wonderful, but what I loved, and I go back to, is thinking like a little kid. When we had breaks and we had snacks, you would talk about God. And you weren't around adults, so you could talk about God with whatever was coming out of your mind. And I remember, I don't know if anybody else remembers this or not, but talking about Jesus, there's a couple stories in the Gospels. The Gospel is the first part of the New Testament that tells about the story of Jesus, so you understand what Jesus did when He came to earth. So that's gospel. When I say that, that's the Gospels. But it talks about a story when He fed thousands of people. Now, you're a little kid. I liked food. In fact, there was a time in sixth grade where I was wearing husky pants. Now, because I ate good, all right? So food was important. Jesus fed 5,000. My limited attention span, I may have heard the story and talked it over with my friends that, wouldn't it be great? I need a ham sandwich. Wouldst thou bringest me thine ham sandwich? And you get a ham sandwich. And you go through life thinking that's what God is like. But as you read these stories, you really do get the heart of God. It was more than the food. There's more to any story in the Bible than what you just read at the surface. I challenge you as you read the Bible, and I challenge you to read the Bible every day, even a little bit, even a lot, whatever works for you. Find a spot that that is fun and engaging. You know, New Testament, Mark, in the New Testament, great place to start. It starts with action, the baptism of John the Baptist and Jesus. You know, it's just amazing. So start there, read it, read wherever you feel drawn to. But in this story, I'm going to be in Mark chapter 6. I'm going to start reading in verse 30. Jesus feeds the 5,000. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. See, he had sent them out. They did some work. They shared the gospel. They shared what Jesus was on earth to do. They shared, it wasn't the gospel then, it was the good news. Okay, and he's called us all to do that. If you want to be in obedience. Anyway, and he said to them, he is Jesus, come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while. That sounds like an invitation to not work. You guys did good. You know, it's the weekend. Come on, let's just chill out. Let's do some fishing. Let's relax and rejuvenate, because that's good. All right, that's good. But for many were coming and going, and they had no leisure time to eat, even to eat. Food's coming. And they went away in a boat to a desolate place by themselves. Desolate, that means not close. That means away from people. And they went away in a boat to this desolate place. Now many saw them going and recognized them. They ran there on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. They knew where they were going. I bet wherever your town is, there's that place that people go to relax and unwind. Think about if you knew somebody Jesus was heading there, you'd run ahead of him to get there just so you could see Jesus. All right, these guys are tired though, and they've been promised a good chilled weekend. When he went ashore, he saw the great crowd. What did Jesus do? He had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. They needed guidance. They needed direction. How many people do you know in your life that are just kind of bouncing around, just putting out the next fire or trying to achieve something to make themselves feel good, but they're missing Jesus in their life? So hold on. And he began to teach them many things. You're probably a better teacher than you know, even by the way you live. And when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, hey, this is the desolate place. And remember, the hour, it's really late. I've already worked past what you promised me I'd be resting at. Send them away so they can go get some food in the surrounding villages and stuff. But Jesus answered them, you give them something to eat. Okay, the story goes on. They're like, how are we going to afford this? But what Jesus does, he finds somebody that has some fish and some loaves, and he blesses it. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat without blessing and sanctifying my meal. You know, you can call that ritualistic or legalistic or whatever you want to call it, but how can it be bad to talk to God? And hey, we got an example in the Bible where Jesus did it. So if Jesus does it, it's good enough for me. Okay, so he blessed it, multiplied all the food. Like, he made food appear out of nowhere. Okay, so back into this little kid's head, this sixth grade Rich Justice, all right? Free food. I'd like a ham sandwich and some Cheetos. Anytime I want, watching TV, Jesus gonna get a ham sandwich and some Cheetos. You know what? They never showed up. That's not the point of the story. And this is where, if you're on a guest services team or you serve in your church on the weekend, this is so important that you get. The hunger was a distraction from the ministry. The hunger was a distraction from the ministry. Jesus just didn't want to feed their physical bodies. He wanted to minister to them. He saw them running towards Jesus. That's another example of if you run towards Jesus, he will take care of you. He will meet your needs. But run to Jesus and allow him to minister to you. And then he'll make some fish and bread. No. But in this story, he made fish and bread. And you think this is crazy? Read a couple chapters later. He does it for another 4,000 people. Funny thing is, his disciples, they're like, Jesus, what are we going to do? Where are we going to get food for these? They just saw this. But they decided they would forget that. Don't judge them, because how many times do we do that in life? We don't see the things God blesses us with. If you take time to think back over your day, it is even a blessing, guys, that the sun rose in the morning and it sets at night. There's a schedule to that. That the earth turns on its axis just right, so that gravity is just right. So if it turns too fast, we fly off. If it slows down for some reason, we'd be sucked down to the earth, couldn't move. The air that we breathe is held in balance by God himself. I cannot understand a world where people don't think that there's a creator, because how does this all accidentally happen? And you can't get something from nothing. But I won't go into all that. That'll be another time in that 6th grade Rich Justice mind. But okay, so like the little kid, I think it's so easy for us to jump to that conclusion that God's just going to give me what I need or what I want. I want a ham sandwich. You know what God did? He gave me a mom that loved me enough to make me a sandwich. Or he loved me enough that my parents made enough money that we would have peanut butter in the cupboard. I could have a peanut butter sandwich. Remember? It's so easy to run past all the blessings that you do have because you're looking at what you don't have or what you want. So, Jesus didn't come to earth to give you a ham sandwich. Jesus came to minister to you. And after he ministers to you, he's going to meet your needs. So if you're volunteering at your church in any kind of, in any way, okay, I'm not going to leave anybody out. Anything you do to make the weekend go better, or the Wednesday night when the kids are there, or if you are a summer time Bible school teacher who's giving your time to introduce kids to new characteristics of Christ and of God, and to teach them in his ways, you are ministering. You are just like Jesus feeding those 5,000 or the 4,000 in the next part, because you are taking away a distraction by meeting a physical need. So this week, as you go to church, I challenge you to look for a physical need that you can meet. Hold the door for somebody, even if you're not serving this weekend. If you're sitting next to somebody that you don't know, and it's not your weekend to serve, just like the disciples. Now remember, they were promised a getaway. Let's go to a desolate place. Let's recharge, guys. Let's connect with God. This is all good. I want to hang out with Jesus. But then the people came, and Jesus had compassion on them, and he taught them. So, even if you're not on this weekend, and you're like, oh, I just get to sit and enjoy, I challenge you to engage. I challenge you to engage the person next to you. I challenge you to invite them into your world. And you are going to be so blessed. You know, sometimes that interaction doesn't go past, that kind of thing. But sometimes it's like you run into them at the grocery store. After that, you have something to talk about. Hey, saw your church. Yeah, I sat next to you. This is great. And you may have things in common that you didn't ever conceive possible. This video comes to you from Lincoln, Nebraska, the heart of Nebraska. I bet just about anybody can talk about the Cornhuskers. If you're going to talk football, if you're going to talk volleyball, if you're going to talk basketball, you will have something in common. And if you don't, there's going to be something else you have in common. Even if it's just that you know a good ham sandwich. So if you know a good ham sandwich here in town, give me a message below. I would love to go check it out. But I want you all to know God loves you. He created you on purpose. He's given you a purpose. And He's given us the Bible, this word, so that we can see what it looks like to have a calling on our lives. So that we can see what God created us for and the character of God. So read your Bible. Have fun with it. Pray. Be in a relationship with God. Ask Him, God, who is it that you want me to connect with today? At my job, at church, or anywhere. Have a good time connecting with God. And surround yourself with people who love God. Church on the weekends. A connect group during the week. A class during the week. Meet and have coffee. There's a great big world out there. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. But it's not bigger than God. So I love you. I love the God that loves you. And I love serving God with you. Hope you have a great week. Remember, subscribe. And who knows what's going to come out of that 6th grade Rich Justice's mind next week. Bless you and have an anointed week.